next up is Minerva Perez.
All right, hello everyone. Do I have to gum that close? Probably not. I'm going to call up some very special guests in a minute. But first, I'm going to go through a few things. So my name is Minerva Perez. I'm the executive director of OLA of Eastern Long Island. We are a Latino-focused nonprofit based on the east end of Long Island, covering all 5 towns, the villages in between, and doing work that basically centers on advocacy, education, and the arts. All 3 of those aspects extremely important to us. Some of the work that we do spans access to education, making sure that of the 24 East End school districts across our East End, that access is there and children have the legal right to an education. And you won't even believe it, but even to this moment, there are ways that that access can be denied very easily through different means that sometimes are on purpose and sometimes they aren't. But we're there to make sure that our children have equal access to education. I'm going to go through some of these slides. The other work we do has to do with equity. Also, we're talking a lot about equity and with regard to policies and protocols, with law enforcement, with access to housing. At this current moment, there's a lot of illegal evictions that are happening. People have been harmed and hurt because of COVID. A lot of us have, but there are things in place right now to make sure that we're addressing them, such as this moratorium and just laws that exist to make sure you don't just kick people out because you just feel like kicking them out. But that's happening right now. There are a tremendous amount of very scary things happening there that are affecting families, children, individuals. So we are there basically 24 hours a day. We've got an amazing team. We currently have some focus on mental and emotional health access for adolescents and for everyone through our Project Hope initiative that is a FEMA-funded state initiative. I talk really fast, I'm sorry. Police love that I talk this fast, by the way. So when we do police trainings, they're like, go faster, go faster. I'll take a breath. So we do a lot of work and we love the work we do. We've got an amazing team. Sandra Dunn, our associate director, is in the audience right there. Sandra, wave so everyone knows you. Amazing. And so I'm going to go through these slides rather quickly. And then I'm going to invite some special guests up, and I'm going to try to keep the time frame here kind of short. But I encourage you to reach out and reach out and find out more about OLA through OLA of Eastern Long Island.org, and you can always call. You'll see the number there. You can call, talk to me, talk to Sandra. We'd be happy to tell you about what else we're doing and how we're working with the community that even though we are Latino focused, we also are serving the entire East End, and whether that be through the children's needs, through mental and emotional health access, through Chromebooks that we help to provide $1.75 million worth of Chromebooks and Wi-Fi across public schools and other schools in our East End area, and all the way through working with people that we're getting to and from doctor's appointments that have cancer treatments. They're not all Latinos, so we are helping everyone that we possibly can with a pretty, tight group. We've got now 9 or 10 core members of our team and a few more from Project Hope. If that initiative continues through March or beyond, then that makes us at about 22 or so, a staff of about 22. So I'm going to go through these, and let me see, I'm going to start off this way. Okay. This is during a march that we participated in to really speak out against the separation of families that was happening at the border, and still against some of the practices that are happening at our border that aren't correct, such as children not having any kind of representation in front of an immigration judge. That's kind of horrific. And so we have here with us actually the 3 young women that were standing there with me. I've invited them and they have graciously come here. And the song that they were singing right there, they're going to be performing for you tonight in a few minutes. They were singing that song on one of the hottest days of the year as we went around twice around through Sag Harbor with a lot of people. They were singing their hearts out because they believed in what we were doing, and their parents did as well. So they're going to come up and sing that for you. Some other aspects of the work that we do is calling together our leadership out here and our community members to talk about things like breaking our Constitution. There was a time when honoring an administrative warrant was something that our towns and villages and our police departments were willing to do. They were willing to honor search and seizure without a judicial warrant. simply because Immigration Services, or ICE, was asking them to do so. Simply by being able to do that, you're breaking the trust of a community that needs to have full faith in law enforcement and our municipalities. Trust was broken. We are trying to repair that. At a certain time, our county jail, there was money. There's money attached with who you bring into that jail. Children, women, men. There's dollar signs if you put people in those jails that don't need to be there. And that was happening at a time when people were not committing any kind of crimes, but they were being brought there because ICE was saying, hey, hold this person for 48 hours. Not for some egregious crime, but because they were known to have crossed the border illegally. There are other ways of handling things that don't include putting children in jail. Sorry for the language, but this was scribbled on the door of a family who was being evicted illegally, and there were all kinds of fear tactics used against this family, who also happened to be a family member, a young boy with cerebral palsy in that family. That didn't stop people from writing that on the door. We were there to bring in legal support and deal with the landlords and deal with the whole situation. This is a gentleman who was attacked in a bias attack in Hampton Bays. He was walking home from a party. That was a 6 p.m. party. It was a family party barbecue. And people jumped out of a van and jumped him and beat the heck out of him, saying horrible things that I'm not going to say in front of these kids, even though they just read that other thing. But really frightening. But luckily, in that particular case, law enforcement immediately saw that as a hate crime, which is great. We didn't even have to fight about that. They knew that was a hate crime, and this man has gotten some help that he needed. This is a picture that was done by Eric Fischel, an artist who has been supportive of Ola. He painted this also as a result of learning all of the horrors that were happening at the border. And this is a print that he's actually given Ola. We had about 100 prints. I think we've sold about 20 of them, but they are available. They're numbered and signed by Eric Fischel, should anyone want to purchase those. But it's kind of support like that helps us move forward. Our funding is essentially all donors and some foundations, and we are a thoroughly and completely independent organization, which is important because sometimes people get support from us and they're nervous because we have to go into some of the ugly areas of gaps that people fall through, and it's important that they know that we're there and we are fully and totally independent. That's more images from the event that in Sag Harbor. It was very well attended, lots of people. We also were very happy that Shinnecock were involved in this as well, and there you are. Some of the work that we do, we partner and we collaborate with everyone we possibly can. So I'm so excited. Pretty much everyone on this dais here are people that I either have or look very much forward to working with and collaborating with. But this is something we did with CIMI, the Children's Museum, to focus on mental and emotional health for families during the reign of our prior administration, when little children were waking up at 2 a.m. to touch their parents to make sure they were still in their beds because they feared that they would be taken from them. So we started bringing mental health professionals, Latinos, Spanish-speaking mental health professionals, to work with families and make sure that we could talk about these things and help these families understand how to talk about. We would have little children separate, in the museum, age appropriate, having different types of discussions. During the pandemic, of course, there was less access to food. Some folks didn't even have a chance, they didn't have cars, so they couldn't get to pantries. So how do you deal with that? Well, we helped work with volunteers that would go and buy the groceries and drop them off at the families' homes. Then we also worked with the county to make sure that there was an emergency food support system because it didn't exist. So we helped to create a number to call for the county so that if you had nothing at all, you could call that number and that the corresponding town that you lived in would then drop off a box of non-perishable food so that people aren't going to starve during a pandemic. How do you get someone to stay home and not work if they're not feeling well? If their children aren't going to eat? You make sure that there's a system around them that's going to work during a pandemic. So we help to create that through the county and locally. We are now part of Project Hope. That's a mental and emotional health helpline that we run out here for the entire East End. We speak English and Spanish. And we are now also contracted with the county to make sure through ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance Program, that people have access to. There's still about $1 billion left in this fund. So if people owe back rent, regardless of their documentation status, that they could have access to this. So we have people working this precise program across the entire East End. Latinos, non-Latinos. We are working along with Nassau Suffolk Law Services and Family Service League. We're the ones that are running that with them. We helped to put together one of the first vaccine pods in East Hampton when there were no minority-focused vaccine pods. So we worked directly with the state to get access to vaccines when they were very hard, as you could tell. I wanted to show the picture of the snow because that's how early on it was. And we were able to get that vaccine through the state, through the governor's office. And then we worked with NAACP, Larry Street. We worked with the church there, Most Holy Trinity, and we had it was a scary time. We had people that wanted to get into that vaccine, and we let some. Of course, we did the best we could, but this was a minority-focused vaccine pod for a reason, because there had been some other pods that were very, very hard for minorities and people that were having some struggles to get into those. It just wasn't accessible to them, and we need to focus on things like that. Now, some of our biggest partners are Northwell Health and Stony Brook University. It's a great picture of some proud Latinos having been vaccinated. We do a lot of work with youth, and we also have a scholarship program. So we've given out to date about 6 multi-year scholarships just since 2019. And we recently had, these are some folks at one of our youth dinners. These are some of the recipients of that scholarship. And recently we've just had a wonderful youth dinner here at the Parrish, where they got to see the land claim exhibit and then sit down and talk about the future. What comes next, whether it's college or vocational. The scholarship program that we have might be something that they're eligible for, that they'll get some support with. Through Project Hope, we're also operating this text line. And we're going to advocate that we continue this work because adolescents have told us through a survey that we've taken that we are actually now getting analyzed by Stony Brook. It's a pretty big survey, so it's going to be a qualitative analysis looking at all the comments that the students made, but what kind of mental and emotional health needs do middle and high schoolers need? What are they looking for? Because they certainly need help, but they're not just going to go to a teacher or guidance counselor all the time, and you're not always going to know they need help. So we're really looking right now at what can we do collectively on the East End of Long Island to make sure that our adolescents have access to the help that they need the way they need it. We don't have to wait until they're at a horrible crisis. We need to be there the way they need us to be there. So we're working on an answer to that as well, talking with all of our leadership, Fred Thiels, the superintendents, everyone that we can. But the first step is to analyze the survey that we created. And in the meanwhile, we have this text line. People can block their phone and just text in and say, I'm having a really rough day. We've got crisis counselors that can respond in English and in Spanish. We've started a show called Conversations with Ola at LTV as a way to interview, Sandra and I are both co-hosting it, as a way to interview some people in our community. They're not all Latino, but people that are impacting our community that we can share their stories. And this is a great image, something we did at the Watermill Center. We did this banner making workshop, and I just love this picture because that's what this student wanted to say. And that's the last one. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to invite Valerie Torres and Mia Luna right up here. And father of Valerie is going to play the guitar. So please, you all are going to have a microphone. I'm going to give you.
Nuestros corazones insaciables son hasta que conocen a su Salvador. Tal y como somos nos amó, hoy nos acercamos sin temor, sin temor. Él es el agua al que al beber nunca más tendremos sed. Jesucristo basta, Jesucristo basta. Mi castigo recibió y su herencia me entregó. Jesucristo basta, Jesucristo basta. Ah, ah. Fuimos alcanzados por su grande amor. Con brazos abiertos nos recibe hoy. Tal y como somos nos amó. Oh, oh. Hoy nos acercamos sin temor, sin temor. Tal y como somos nos amó. Oh, oh. Hoy nos acercamos sin temor, sin temor. Él es el agua al que al beber nunca más tendremos sed. Jesucristo basta, Jesucristo basta. Mi castigo recibió y su herencia me entregó. Jesucristo basta, Jesucristo basta. Ah, ah. Ahora hay un futuro y esperanza fiel. En su amor confiamos, hay descanso en él.